Hey there guys, gals, and non-binary pals. Today we're going to be talking about everyone's favorite pyromaniac. We're taking a look at Scorch. Now, Scorch is an interesting rogue that comes into us. First off, she's one of the few that doesn't have a bio in-game, so there's no real background for how she got, maybe her robot arm, or why she's immune to fire, all this cool stuff that she's able to bring. But I still think not only aesthetically, but gameplay-wise, she's one of the most fun to have. In my mind, very similar to Lancer, very good at just holding W, but the difference is Scorch, maybe you slow it down a little bit, you always win your 1v1s as long as you have your active open. So let's go ahead and take a look at her. First off, her passive when it comes down to it. Fireproof, immune to fire. Now I'm going to go ahead and tell you, this comes up way more often than you would think it does, but also nowhere near as often as you would hope it does. Being immune to fire is really cool, but the most times it comes into play are either when yourself or maybe an enemy rogue happens to have their incendiary grenade ready, they throw it, they put it on the ground, and you rush through it. There was a point where I was able to defuse a bomb while I was, or maybe I was planting the bomb, I can't remember. Either way, something affiliated with the bomb site while I was inside of an incendiary grenade, and it's cool, but it doesn't really make a huge difference a lot of the time. There are just these little saving plays you can make when you're standing in it, so it's something interesting to keep in mind. That being said, her passive's not really what you're looking at her for. It's her ability, Overheat, that makes Scorch one of the best. For a period of time, your firearms and melee attacks will set enemies on fire, dealing damage over time. This ability, not only is it phenomenal, but it lasts a long time. Even with the nerf that's planned to come up for it, this ability is so insanely strong for you that it helps turn a fight every time in your favor. This is one where you could very easily 1v1, 1v2. Honestly, if you're hitting the right shots, you could 1v3, maybe even take all 4 down in an instant while using Overheat. It definitely makes trades a lot easier for Scorch, and it makes things a lot better to have her. She's an aggressor through and through. She's great in Strikeout because of it. The downside, again, is going to be her weapons being a little more close range, but honestly, the SLC, her SMG, is incredibly good, even at a medium range if you can burst fire it. So she does bring a whole lot to the table, and I think she has a lot of merit both on offense and defense if you're playing Demolition, of which we can now look at what her guns, gadgets, and all that fun stuff does. There's multiple ways to play Scorch. First, I'm going to talk about the way I do it, which I think is a very standard way. Of course, that will allow the gunplay, and then I'm going to talk about one little, let's just call it special style of play as we move into it. So the first and foremost, looking at it, she brings the A3 salvo. It's a burst fire pistol. I think she's the only person who has this pistol in the game, and it's really good. Again, if you pop your Q in a pistol round and you have this, you're going to be able to win any fight. As you level it up, you can get mag size and hip fire accuracy, but honestly, I've never had to. You can leave it pretty much at level 1 and you'll be perfectly fine with it throughout the entire game. It's a burst fire, again, so you're going to have a couple of shots every time you throw it out there. Good damage, consistent weapon. Once you get the good feel for it, you're going to be able to do anything you want to turn things in your favor. Then we can take a look at her 2 main primary weapons. The Arbitrator, which is a double-barrel shotgun, and the SLC, which is an SMG. First, I'm going to talk about the Arbitrator because it is really deadly up close. But it is kind of only deadly up close, and honestly, even though you can upgrade the reload speed as you get it, and eventually, you get hip accuracy and reticle reduce, or bloom reduce, I should say, as well as damage range when you tier it up, it doesn't necessarily feel that great to me until it's tier 3. The fact that you have to level it up all the way makes it a little less appealing. Plus shotguns, if you miss your 2 shots, then you're stuck in a reload period. It gives a lot of turnaround time for your opponent, and if you're in a fight, much like with a DMR, and you miss a couple of shots, not only can they turn it around, but in a 2v1, you're never going to be able to pick up that slack. That being said, it's not a bad shotgun. I think it's got its merits. It's definitely something you can play around with, but I don't know if it is the go-to gun, at least not for me. Maybe you just happen to like shotguns, in which case, go for it. My preferred weapon, though, is the SLC SMG. Now, this is a high-fire submachine gun. Looks kind of like an Uzi, honestly, plays the same way you would expect it. Good hip fire accuracy at the very beginning, but again, works really, really well with overheat. When you pop overheat, you now have 30 incendiary rounds that are flying out of this. And of course, overheat lasts so long right now that it means you've got, like, let's say 60, 90, any more of that depending on how long you last. As you level it up, you get a bigger mag, you get hip fire accuracy, and you get suppressing fire and reduced recoil at tier 3. This is one that I think keeps on giving. It's good at base, and it just gets better with every single tier. It feels solid, and again, being an SMG, it feels like they kind of dominate in Rogue Company, and this is probably one of the best in the game. It feels solid, and again, with overheat, it works so well at downing enemies, almost like it's nothing. Now you get to pair whichever gun you choose along with a couple of gadgets. I think in competitive play, the EMP grenade is going to be very big because you can't use your ability. Your minimap stops working. Your gadgets no longer are going to function or, you know, be allowed to get deployed by the players or the rogues on the other team. But as of right now, I feel like they're few and far in between. I think they're definitely an edge case. It depends on who you're up against to make the big difference here for the EMP grenade. So pick one if you want to. You can maybe swing it around. But for the most part, I really like playing with, well, you might have guessed it, the incendiary grenade that she brings. You know, you're bringing a bunch of fire everywhere else in the kit, might as well bring this. But because you're immune to fire, there's so much you can do with this in terms of play potential. Toss it down, run in, and now you're covered. Nobody else can touch you. They can't get near you, and it does keep you safe for that period of time. Also, they're just good at being able to block people off in a certain pathway. Now they can't come through there, and, you know, maybe being able to pick up some of the kills on downed enemies. Either way, it's really good. As you level it up, you get a radius and fire duration, so it just lasts even longer and becomes even better. I like the incendiary grenade. If you find a good angle, you find a good way to make it work, I think it fits into the kit very well. And then, of course, her perks are also something that just wins me over. Scorch plays really well. Replenish up at the top along with Headstrong. So you 20 get 5 armor if you want it at the beginning of the round. Of course, downing an enemy reloads your current equipped weapon with Replenish, which I think is phenomenal. Again, with the SLC, with Overheat, and Replenish, once you get all 3 of those online, you just tear through an enemy team as long as you're fast enough. Hey, you reloading way too much? Cool, we got Nimble Hands. I love getting Nimble Hands. One of my second or third round buys on Scorch is to grab the SLC and Nimble Hands early so you can just keep on rolling. And I think you're starting to get a feel for it. A lot of what I think about Scorch and Lancer when it comes down to it, I think she fuses into this, is that it's very aggressive. You never want to really stop fighting when you get the opportunity, and her perks play into that, her guns play into that, and Overheat is one of the few abilities that recharges in the round, so you can use it over and over again as long as the round lasts long enough. She's also got things like Tenacity, so reduced damage from explosives, sorry Dima, and Evade after you get damaged, increases move speed for a short duration so that you can get out of dodge whenever things get catchy. Now, I personally like getting, again, I said SLC as well as Nimble Hands, then I level up the SLC, grab an incendiary grenade, work towards Replenish, and then if I get there, eventually I get Headstrong. But there is another way to play her. Now, you'll notice something different about Scorch when you lock in. Her melee weapon is not an axe, or a baseball bat, or a katana, or any sort of bladed weapon. It's Rosie. It is Scorch's mechanical arm. She punches with it, and that is where her melee weapon is. Now, as you level that up, you get melee lunge distance, as well as melee attacks dealing more damage, and apply a dot to your enemies. Damage over time as you level it up. Now, here's the style some people like to play, and it's really fun if you're in Strikeout. Now, I can recommend this. But you go ahead and you grab Headstrong, you get that 25 armor, but you have to get Evade as well. So now you have increased lunge. Whenever you get hit, you have movement speed, and you're applying a damage over time, and, you know, later in the game, you have 25 armor on top of that. You are always chasing people down, meleeing them. This is a very fun build to have. Maybe not the most competitive, but it is one to have a little bit of, again, just silly fun while you run around in the game. Either way, I think Scorch is a phenomenal rogue that is in the game. I think she is someone that is never going to lose her 1v1s. Her guns work out really well for her throughout the game. Overheat is probably one of the best, if not the best, ability in the game to me. So I think she has a lot of merit to herself, and I think that's something that we're going to have to keep our eyes out. But once again, guys, if you have a rogue you would like to talk about, go ahead and tell me in the comments below who you want to see next. Either way, we'll be making a decision sometime soon and going in with our next rogue guide. But as always, like, comment, subscribe. Thank you so much for watching. We'll talk to you in the next guide.